Welcome to again a special episode of Don't Panic Geocacher. Topic of the day is the Voyage to Cachelandia t-shirt. This is the t-shirt for the Going Caching Mega event. It's that time of year again. And in this video I'll explain the pre-event puzzle and how it is solved. So this is the front of the t-shirt. This is the only time you will see it. But I did want to show it and feature it in the video, as it would be a shame to not do it. Whatever you see here is actually not part of the puzzle itself, so there's no other reason to show it. You see here also the ID of the event itself. So a little bit about the shirt and the event. So every year Going Caching releases a pre-event shirt for their mega event. The last few years it always has been held in Rome, Georgia and the USA. It's a very well organized, puzzle-oriented geocaching mega event. And this year it's called Voyage to Cachelandia, and the theme is Vikings. So you saw the Viking ship on the t-shirt. Now each year, as part of the promotion and fundraising for the event, they release a pre-event shirt. And that shirt has a often pretty complicated and extensive puzzle associated with it. And the puzzle has a first to find prize. Now the puzzle solving the shirt is really only like part of the solution. In most cases it ends up with a location, but that location also requires an additional step on the day of the event itself, often even more than one step. That will then lead you to a cache location within there the reward for the first to find team. So this video provides that solution that is based on my understanding of how it is being solved. It's being created before the event has started, so I have no advanced knowledge. I don't know whether it's correct, but this is based on the assumptions from me and my team of how it is correctly solved. And we will only release it after the first to find has been found, so it's in no way a spoiler for anything. And just in case, we did ask permission from the Going Caching crew and received permission, but not any confirmation or knowledge. So they haven't seen the video, I haven't seen any of their notes or heard any of the things. So it may contain errors and mistakes, and in that case we might laugh, or the video may never see the light of day, right, if it's too bad off. So yeah, with that, let's get started and look more at what was this year in the t-shirt event and package. So some preparation before getting started. This is not a 1-hour project. I'm afraid to calculate how many hours we put into this. That's also because of the video and some extra activities, and we take the the race to the first to find pretty serious. So yeah, so make sure that you know that this is not something that you might solve in one evening, or it may take several steps and several meetings to solve it. The other thing that I would recommend is find a team. It's hard to do by yourself. It can be done as a single person, but it's much easier and much more fun if you do it as a team. I also recommend to get a package, the shirt for every team member. That just helps because if you are together, you can work on it. But that allows also each team member to work on it by themselves and make progress as a team, right? Otherwise, only one of the members would have all the information. Doesn't work as well. So the other thing is be very thorough, read everything before even starting too far. There's quite a few things that require a combination of multiple elements that comes in the puzzle or the puzzle package almost. So I definitely would recommend reading, doing a lot of reading. Take pictures, take notes. Sometimes it's good to see, okay, where did I get this from, when, how was exactly the beginning situation. So it's always good to take some pictures and document what you're doing. And start like a Google document that you can share with your teammates, or create notes of everything that you do, because it might sometimes be hard to remember. And in multiple cases, you may need the information more than once. Something that at least I do, and you will see that also in this video, I kind of destroy the pieces in a way that I write on it with pen and I put markers on it where I think it might be useful, just so that I don't have to repeat the same task over and over again. The last thing, and this is certainly has been proven useful for the last years, is make sure you examine everything. And with everything, I mean really everything, including the packaging that it came in and every element that you see. Examine it with UV light. You never know where you're going to find a clue. So these are the contents of this year. I will go into a lot more detail, but there's a variety of envelopes. There is, of course, the packaging, as I mentioned. I don't throw it away. It is part of it. Every little note, every little piece is important. Of course, the shirt itself, which is an important part of the puzzle, and we'll go into that first. But there's actually a board game associated, which is the Voyage to Caslandia game, with instructions, and there's some other material that you can use in the board game, and the rules of the board game as well. It also comes with a translation table. We'll go into more details of that. So yeah, quite a few game pieces, and we need to go through all of them. So it's almost like a puzzle box, with the shirt being a key element of that. Note there's like a special other prize with the shirt. If you buy the shirt and wear it to events, you are also entered in a lottery where again you can win money. So the shirt actually has two prizes associated. Not just a puzzle prize, but also just a participation for any event, any geocaching event that you go to when wearing the shirt. So yeah, one of the papers, in this case the back of the board game, has a little bit of a description and introduction into it. I'll quickly summarize it. It talks about the event itself, when the event is. So it's a mega event, it's October 7th. Talks about everything that should be in there, including like a crayon, which I don't think I've displayed, but there was a crayon in there as well. And then the glossary, the shirt, the board game, etc. Talks about the first to find price for the $250 as long as it's claimed before 3 o'clock on the day of the event. And the final will, like I said, lead to an ammo can, but you can only solve it so far before the event. And it tells you what you need to do here, and that is that you need a date and a time, you need coordinates, and you need a lock combination. And this has been consistent for the last few years, that is the three pieces that you need to find. And that is what we're looking for when solving this shirt. So with that, let's go take a look at the shirt. So this year the shirt proved a good starting point for the puzzle. It's not consistent. Some years it might be one of the other puzzles you have to solve first. But the shirt had some special text and special characters on it. And as mentioned, part of the documents that we received was this translation table that had some codes on it. So for example, the word finish and the word start are on here. Next, there's some colors, like black is on here. Some directions, plus, minus, left, right. But a lot of them are still blank. We don't know what they are. Now the good news is, by the end of this video, we'll know what they are. We just don't know yet what they are. So this is the back of the shirt, and it has these runes on it, on the shirt, and we're going to solve them piece by piece. We're going to go over it and take a look and see what they mean. So we'll start here at the top, and I magnified it a little bit so you can see it right here. And we see some characters, but we see pretty much one of the characters repeats quite a bit. This character is actually the equals sign, but we see also some symbols that we don't recognize. So if we start a translation for this, then for every time I didn't recognize the symbol, we just substitute it with a character. So A, B, C, D, E, F. And you can kind of see what it's doing here. It says A plus B equals C, D divided by E minus B equals F, G minus C equals H, H minus A equals I, and so on. So if the same A and A, I also used A and A, right? So same for the other ones. If the same symbol is used, I substitute it with the same letter. So this actually turns out to be just simple math equations. So if we rewrite them as math equations and assume that each character has a unique value, in this case from 1 to 9, right? Then we get these values out of it. So with a couple of simple assumptions, we actually see that we are dealing here with 10 unique numbers. And that also means that we have now decoded 10 more characters. So here you see the summary of those characters. So what they were in my text, which of course is meaningless because they were random letters assigned. But more important, what symbol now is 1. So my assumption is that this is important to remember. So the x is a 0, that's kind of easy. The 8 looks kind of like sideways. The 1 kind of looks a 1. But the 2, the 4, and the 9, they kind of look alike. The 2 is like pointing almost the opposite way, and the 4 the other way. And so, but yeah, 5 looks almost like a 3 reversed. But yeah, it's going to be important to remember those because most likely they'll be used again during the event itself. So that's the first part of the puzzle solved, and we gain some knowledge. What are the different symbols that represent numbers? Taking another look at the shirt, so going to a different area. So we see here little text here on the swords that are now symbols that we recognize. If I zoom in a little bit, these correspond with the numbers that we just decoded. Remember, the x was a 0, this one was a 1. So if we decode this, we get 10, 0, 7, 23 and 10, 0, 0. So, which of course is the location and the time of the event. So October 7, which is the day of the event, 2023, and 10 o'clock, apparently that's when we have to meet. We don't know where yet. Remember, there was 3 things to solve: when, where, and combination. Well, we have the when, but we don't have anything else yet. So that's what we're going to do next. Zoomed into another area, kind of like the central area, and we find all these symbols, kind of like in a circle, and 4 in the middle. Let's replace all those with the numeric value, because again, these are the numbers. 1, no x, so no zeros, but we have here the 5, and we have here the 8, and the other numbers, right? So this is kind of like what they looked out, what they resemble. So I put them here just in a strict matrix so we can see their initial and how they align. And you might now recognize actually what we deal with. So on the puzzle, much harder to see because it hasn't drawn the lines, but you add some lines to it, and now it's very obvious what this is. This is a well-known Sudoku puzzle. So let's solve it. So here's what we were given. Here in the blue, you see the letters that were given, and then with following the Sudoku rules, unless you're Tyson Apostle, I think most people will know what they are, and especially when you have solved geocaching puzzles. So it's all numbers 1 to 9, unique in a column, unique in a row, and unique in a block. So we now have a bunch of numbers. Don't know yet what to do with it, but they are numbers and we've solved another part of the puzzle. Okay, going to yet another part of the shirt. So this is a lot of text and it looks like they're divided in columns, right, as you see here. So let's decode what the text says. So this is the symbol for right, this is the symbol for down, symbol for right, and then these are the numbers again. So this was the number 2. So we see right 2, down 2, right 3, down 4, left 2, up 1, right 1, etc. And we basically do that 6 times. So written it all out. Now, what does this mean? This is a little bit of having to solve the puzzle, right? But after a little bit of looking, you might notice that that would be perfect to combine with the Sudoku that we just solved. So now we have to find how these instructions work. Now, we were already indicating that we may have to read this in columns, given that they were divided in columns. So, but we see, for example, that right, so we go right first. So most likely we have to start on the left side and also it is down right away, so we can't start here, we have to start at the top. So that's what we're going to do. So if you read this column and start from the right, we can kind of follow the directions. Go 2 to the right, 2 down, 3 to the right, 4 down. And if you follow that, you kind of get this pattern. See, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4 down, 1, 2 left, 1 up, and 1 right. And we end at the number 2. Now, for the next one, we can kind of do the same. So if we switch to the next column, down and right. Now it could be that we had to start at the top again, so that's certainly worth trying. But the up 7 kind of suggests that wouldn't work because we only went down 2. So most likely we'll just have to continue. So we'll do that, down, right, and now up 7. And you see we stay nicely within the grid. And we follow the instructions and we end here at an 8. So we can do the same for the next one. So start where we left off, go right, up, right, up, right, down and right, and we end up at the 1. So we have here we first ended at the 2, then we ended at the 8, and then we ended at the 1. So if we do that for all 6 of the columns, as you see right here, we actually see that we can fill in another part of the shirt, which is like the little things that we had 6 nodes and 2 dashes in between. So we get 28, 18, 36. Now, if you remember with those rotation dial locks, they typically need 3 numbers, like I think between 1 and 40 or 1 and 50. So same thing here, this looks like a good combination if we have a dial lock, that this could be the combination code to unlock. So we got a second thing solved. We got the time and we got the lock of the event. So pretty good, we're making pretty good progress. The only thing left is the coordinates. Now, little reveal, that is typically the hardest part of the event shirt, is getting the coordinates. So let's see how we're going from here. Okay, so yeah, we're getting ready towards playing the board game, but there's a few more steps we need to do in solving what we need for the board game. So let's start with that. So this is what the board game looks like. So you see here looping through it. We see some other arrows, but important right now is that we take a look at this and this part. Now I already wrote letters here behind it. As I mentioned, I do a lot of markups, make life easier. But this is part of the things that you had to solve. Same here. So we see like a little rainbow here, and we see a compass right here. So let's zoom in a little bit. So this is what it looks like. And I wrote here Roy G. Biff behind it because this is clearly like a rainbow, right? So that means that we now know the letters that represent colors, or the symbols that represent colors. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So we now know that what these colors are, and we have some more deciphered. The same with the compass, assuming that north is up, typical standard, then this would be east, south, and west. So we have 4 more symbols deciphered. Now in the beginning we had like a partial translation. So if we look at that again, and we fill in the missing information, so this is how we received it. And now with all the information about the colors that we have, and the numbers that we have, and the wind directions, we've actually filled in everything. So that means that we now have this entire thing filled out, and we should be able to translate everything that we encounter. So let's put that into practice. This was an envelope, and it said, well, now we know the word turn on it. And when we open it up, we found 7 turn cards. Since we know the numbers 1, 2, 3, this is actually the 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 turn cards, and if we look at the other way, then on all of them we have instructions. So that is the next step that we had to do. We had to kind of decode it. Now the instructions kind of all work the same in that they had a color, but not in the Roy G. Biv order, but each color had a turn. They kind of had like a move symbol, a symbol for forward or backward, and then some numbers. That's what most of them seem to look like. Some of them seem to be quite longer. So one of the tasks you have to do is translate all of these, and I'll show you what it looked like. So here we see this is the translation of the first 4 cards, and as I mentioned, they were all pretty much like go forward or sometimes back, and then numbers, what we had to do. And then sometimes it was like a calculation. If you calculated more, then you got this calculation, and then hopefully it got to a good number. So that is then the conclusion of that. Go forward, and then again the conclusion. So we see that for the first 4 cards it's already pretty consistent, only the slight math equation might throw you off a little bit. The next 5 cards, it gets a little bit wilder. Now, again, I want to focus on that the order stays the same. Red, blue, green, yellow, orange, violet, and indigo. Never really found a reason for that order. That might be important, but for us it was not so far. But we see some different instructions now. Go forward, red turn, and also go north and go south. And so when we play the game, that became more obvious what we need to do in those. And I will explain the conclusions of those. But yeah, they may definitely throw you for a loop in the beginning. And then there were 7 envelopes that were kind of like a mystery. If you didn't read anything, you might screw yourself over here. And yeah, that what might make it very hard to solve, because this is what the envelopes look like. There were 7 identical envelopes. The game in the instruction says do not open until needed. So realistically, you do not open, but how do you open it? Well, turns out that the order is very relevant, but there is no clear markings on there. That is, until you start putting UV light on it. Because the UV light, and hopefully it's visible here, will show again the numbers. So here's the number 1, 2, and 3. Note, I wrote again right next to it what it is, but originally you would just have the UV part to identify them. And so that means that unless you used your UV light, you had no way which envelope to open first, and which puzzle that is in these envelopes you would have to play first. These puzzles are very key for the board game, as we find later, and they had to be opened in a specific order. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and we're going to solve all the puzzles first, so that by the time that we play the board games, we don't have to solve them anymore, and we can just run through them, as we now can determine what is puzzle 1, what is puzzle 2, what is puzzle 3, etc., etc. So let's take a look and start with the first puzzle. So I gave all the puzzles a name, just so that we could quickly identify them when we talk to each other. Yeah, because we worked sometimes independently on solving these. So this first one was called Scribble, because of the scribbly lines here, and they had a little text next to it. And what you had to do is solve the scribble, so see which color matched with what line with text. Enter it in this maze, right? You see like kind of like a maze in the order of the rainbow. Now, fortunately, here they are already in the rainbow colors, but here we'll see what they will be. And then you see some of these darker highlighted cells. Well, that will give us a text, and hopefully that text will make sense. So you see that right here. So we see all the colors have now been filled in. So this is the red text, this is the orange text, the yellow text, and so on. And when we fill this in, then you will get a matrix that looks like this. And now we can start translating the highlighted again by following the maze. So if we do that, then it will start with the word move, forward. This is the symbol for 3. Multiplication, 4 minus 7. So move forward, 3 times 4 minus 7. That looks reasonable. Answer is most likely 5, right? So move forward 5. So that looked reasonable, and we've solved our first puzzle. Okay, let's look at the second puzzle. A lot of people found this the most difficult one, I've already heard. Or at least one of the difficult ones. There's another tricky one as well later on. But you have to recognize that this is a lock that you can rotate. And there are several gotchas here that will make it more trickier. So let's start by just looking at these numbers. A lot of them are just, again, from the alphabet, but we recognize here the word start. So let's mark that one, that this is most likely the start of everything. And then, of course, here we see text. So we'll translate that as well. So we'll get turn counterclockwise 31, turn clockwise 29, turn counterclockwise 23. So that's the translation of the text right here. Now, one thing to take into account, it sounds convenient to start counting like this, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. But yeah, for let's just say that by accident and not because of trying to trick everybody, that this is actually only 4. And this one is only 4. So if we start putting numbers around it, this is 5, this is actually 9, this is 13, then this becomes 18, 23, 28, 33, and so in total we have 38 elements on this. So yeah, so this is tricky and may throw you off at the beginning when you're doing this. So yeah, so that's second thing was that certainly we had one of the first early editions. There was a slight typo on there that for the last two clockwise and counterclockwise was reversed. That made it much harder to solve this one. We figured at some point that most likely a mistake was made, and we heard later on in later editions when more people got the package that had been corrected. But in our package that was reversed, and so we had to do some extra mind melting there to figure out, well, probably it was just reversed. Now here what we ended up doing a lot, because it was harder to rotate the thing itself, was kind of make a logical move. This might be tricky to follow, but if you turn the dial, if for example clockwise, that is the same as moving the red opening here counterclockwise. So if I move the dial, for example, counterclockwise initially 31 locations, then that is the same as moving this one up exactly like 7 locations, and it would go right here. So in both cases we end up at the same spot. Since the latter is much easier to draw and you didn't have to modify the card, it was much easier to do that. So I'm going to use it more from a math approach and just calculate the position each time, where I'm saying if I do counterclockwise, that kind of means plus. If I do clockwise, it means minus. So that means we start at 0, this position 0, and we're going to turn counterclockwise. So go and do that, and I mentioned counterclockwise is addition, so we end up at position 31, right here. This means move. Now clockwise is 29, so that means negative. So that means that we end up at position 2, right here, forward. The next one is plus again, so 2 plus 23 is 25, so we should end up at position 25. And indeed, that is number 4. Same, so on. Clockwise again, so minus is and also ends up with the word minus here, and then the last one 49. Now we only have 38, so we can safely subtract 38 from that, so this would be the same as moving clockwise 3. So if we do 6 plus 41, but then we can subtract 38 because it's a full rotation, then we end up at just position 9, which is the number 1. So the outcome of puzzle 2 is move forward 4 minus 1. 2 puzzles done. Let's go to the next one. The scissors are kind of an indication here that you have to destroy the card, or you have to make a copy of it, or Photoshop it, or do something else. So, but yeah, that's exactly what you had to do. You had to kind of cut the paper, cut out the holes, And you also had to rotate it, because technically this fits in 4 different ways. So this way, rotate it 180, you can flip it and flip it in another direction. So it gives you 4 different ways at least to show this one. Rotating less would kind of get an odd paper size, so you can probably ignore that. So if you do that, and you can see here that I did the rotate 180, the 3 was here and now is over there of the holes, and then cut out the holes. We ended up with these symbols being highlighted. We tried, of course, the other combinations as well, but this was by far the best text, because this one says go, symbol for forward, 1 plus 2 plus 3. Seems like decent instructions. So another puzzle solved. So this is puzzle number 4. Puzzle number 4 is all about finding the differences. I assume at some point we translated all the text, but that was actually not the relevant part of it. The relevant part is to finding the differences between them. So each of them have a unique difference. So you see that right here. So this one is the top is slightly bigger. If we go to this one, it's missing like the rudder right here at the end, while the other ones have that. This one only has one of the lines, while the other ones all have 2, and so on. Each of them have a unique difference, except this one. This one has everything similar to the other ones. So this is obviously the one that we need. And if we translate that, it will say go forward 8. Okay, another puzzle solved. Okay, and puzzle number 5. So puzzle number 5, named Mastermind. It's used to be a game. It has a little bit of like a Wordle kind of aspect to it as well. Is that you have symbols right here, and then the symbols on the right tell you how many you have right and how many you have wrong. So this one means 1 in the right place. This one means you have 2 correct, but not in the correct place. So with a bit of logic, this one has 1 in the right place. Well, it can't be the first one, otherwise this one would also have 1 in the right place. So that is already eliminates that one. Similar, this one has 2, but none of them in the right place. So it could be that can't be these 2, because then this one would already have this one in, would have 2 as well. So through some logic, we can quickly eliminate what one it is. It can't be the middle one, because the middle one is not here. So we can quickly deduce that this must be the one that is in the right place, right here. So in that case, we know that this one makes for one of the yellow ones. We already had eliminated this one, because otherwise this one would have a yellow as well. So it must be that this one is the other one. So that one has to go in position 3. And so that way we can solve kind of like the outcome. Now, similar, we can translate all these, and all of them kind of have a similar Roy G. Biff in this case. The colors red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, and all of them an instruction behind it. And when we solve this little puzzle, it will have these symbols, which means yellow plus, in this case, blue. So yellow plus blue. Okay, that is the outcome of the puzzle. This is actually not the total outcome of the puzzle. There's one more step that you have to do here, because yellow plus blue can be interpreted in multiple ways. So for example, yellow is forward 6 and blue is go back 7. So if you do the combination of the two, it would be go back 1, for example. That is, however, not the correct outcome. The correct outcome of this is that you have to look at the green one. Yellow plus blue, mix them together, you get green, and this is the correct solution to the puzzle. If you don't do that, the whole board game later on won't work, and you kind of end up in a mess. So this is how you had to solve the puzzle and how we have to use it later on. Next one is the jigsaw. So these were all different individual stripes. I kind of put them here next to each other. Um, of course, you can flip them around. The front and the back were also hard to distinguish from each other. Again, the numbers here, I wrote on them so that I can easily remake the puzzle. But it is important to make it in the right way. So when you do that, it will look like this. And now you see my numbers nicely line up. But more important, we now have the symbols that are on there like this. We can now read them and they will say go forward 5 plus 4, right? So we have the jigsaw solved. And the last one of the maze, and arguably the easiest one, we have 3 Vikings that are standing around, and we have to kind of find out which one will bring us to the center of the maze. So if we try that, then we'll find that this is the correct path to the center of the maze. So it's the Viking right here. The text that it passes is go forward 1 plus 3, as you can see right here. And so that will be the outcome of puzzle 7. So we now have all 7 puzzles solved. So to summarize, puzzle number, the name of the puzzle, the output of the puzzle, kind of like what it gave us, and the impact on the game. So puzzle 1 says forward 5, forward 3. There's one that is skip, where the pawn will have to skip a turn, etc., etc. So this is all the mini puzzles solved. So much work has so much done, and still the most complicated task is still ahead of us. That's actually playing the board game. So we see right here that if we take a look at the board game, that it came with a list of instructions. Now, here is all the instructions. I'm not going to read them all. Probably didn't scan them high enough also that you can really read them. But throughout playing, I will refer to different rules and I will show different rules as how they appear. But important to some analysis, and so I will just abstract some things. So the turn cards will basically determine the move. So there is no dice or anything. The turn card determine all the moves, and it explains a little bit in some of the rules of how to read the turn cards. You have to read them in order. One has to finish that turn before the next player goes, etc., etc. Puzzle cards are used when somebody lands on white, and they have to execute that right away before the next player's turn. It's these 2 rules. That makes everything in the game fixed and predetermined. In other words, there is only one outcome. This is of course very key because we're looking for a coordinate. So having one unique outcome would actually be very good because that might lead us to solving that part. Now, the other thing you read is that clearly they had a lot of fun making this because the rules are unique and have a lot of twists that basically throw your whole game around. So making it quite random in what appears, which of course is the whole idea that it's hard to find and get to the end, right? That is the puzzle. It also talks about at the end of a turn card, so the turn card has these 7 colors, where each player gets a turn, that is important, and that they should be handled in order, and that there might be special scenarios at the end of the overall turn, so at the end of a turn card. And the whole page 2 of those instructions is pretty much all about specific end situations that you may end up with and the end of the game, how to get to the end of the game. There's a couple of good endings, a couple of bad endings. It talks about whirlpools that you may end up and just players never getting out of it. That kind of is, I assume, to indicate that you end up in a situation that you shouldn't be in. We never managed to trigger any of those, but they may exist and might have there to help you, indicating that you're on the wrong trajectory to solving the game. Another important rule is pawns cannot occupy the same space. As rule 8 says that. I'm going to use that quite a bit, and they so-called nudge each other. So the nudging off is very important in the at key moments in the game itself. However, with all those rules and the very detailed description, there's still some room for interpretation. We had several of those. Probably some of that was done on purpose. Others might have been just unintentional or our clumsiness in interpreting the rules. So yeah, let's look at the board game. Let's analyze it a little bit further. We already looked earlier, right, at the rainbow and the wind directions, but there's a few more things to notice. First of all the places have the start and end of a rainbow. Now, in this picture, it's kind of hard to see what is yellow, what is white. Later on, I will use a picture that is easier to identify the yellows and the whites. So this problem won't persist. Um, but there's 51 spaces, and we have a start and we have a finish right here. So the numbers were not originally on there. We added those numbers to make it easier for ourselves when it says go forward 5, that it was quickly to see, okay, we end up here, kind of stuff. Again, just make it easier. Now, each position, each space, also has 4 numbers around it. And that's, of course, very interesting because we need coordinates. And so having 4 numbers around it will help us a lot in building coordinates. So that might be useful. And there's also several shortcuts on here. So you have these little arrows that you see right here. So there's several shortcuts. And the game talks about those, about the shortcuts, and that you have to take them. So there's several times where we are forced to take the shortcut, or the pawn is, and it is described in detail how that works and how the shortcuts should be counted. There's also rule 5 that talks about that there's one unique spot, that is spot number 28, which basically is lose next turn. So that's also an important one to remember. If a pawn ends there, they need to lose their turn. Here is probably where it all went a little bit overboard. I created the complete digital version of the game. So it can have all the deck moves, and it will interpret them basically by color, forward or backward, and then how many spaces, or by the word skip, indicating that it had to skip a turn. So those are all the turn cards that we decoded. They're all loaded in here, pretty much exactly how they were decoded, sometimes adding the word skip to it if it was specifically a skip turn. And then some of the other ones were the puzzle cards, the outcome of the puzzle cards, right? So we had move forward 4 minus 1 equals 3. So I put the outcome hereby. And again, the same way, when we land up on the white, it is moving forward. So you see that white and yellow is much easier to distinguish in this copy of the image. So that's what we'll use moving forward. And you also see here a couple of rule interpretations. This was some of the things where we were not always very clear. So we basically interpreted it both ways and see which one gave us the better result. This allowed us to play and experiment in a consistent way. And if we had to go back to a certain thing, we could just, okay, go back to turn 3, step 5, and the game would just bring us back in the situation, or replay it with that specific move in mind. So it allowed us to experiment and make it slightly easier to decode that situation. And plus it was just entertaining to see if it could be done. So yeah, realistically, Cashlandia is online, and you can play it online. So this is the URL. I will leave it up for a while, so that you can play and experiment with it. There's a lot of other information generated because there's lots of rules related to if somebody has been on orange for 3 turns in a row, if it has been hit white for 3 turns throughout the game, special things are being triggered, so there is counters for that. And also it calculated like the position of the board in case that was a useful coordinate, so that we could be notified if there was a useful coordinate. So that's what I'm going to use to play through the entire game. It's basically going to use the online version and make all the right decisions. I have all the right move cards, I have all the right puzzle outcomes, so we'll end up at the desired end situation. And I'll explain how we got there. Okay, let's play one of the turn cards. So all the turn cards have been loaded in here. So this is the translations that I showed earlier of turn card 1, and so on of turn card 4. And so all the turn cards are in here. I purposely misspelled red here so it would know that it is Violet's turn and not Red's turn. And then basically, we'll get to that when we get to round 5, and you saw like the round 7 where it had the weird go north and stuff like that. We'll discuss that when we get to there. And then here the 7 puzzle outcomes in case a player lands on a white spot that we have to play a puzzle. Then it will just play the puzzles one by one based on which ones have been done. Okay, so we say calculate, so now it will just calculate the moves based on the information above. And the game is starting. So everybody is at start and start the game. There's a couple of counters it maintains. It's not so relevant now. We'll get to them when they're relevant. And first move is red go forward 2. So shows here, red go forward 2. And so red is now on the green spot. End of red's turn. So that means the next turn card line is blue go forward 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So blue ends up there. Next one, green go forward 5. That's where we get the first special action, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will end up at white, where we have to play a puzzle. So green is on white. So the first puzzle, this was the little scribble puzzle where we had to connect the lines and then fill in the words in that little circular maze. So where the outcome was move forward 3 times 4 minus 7, which of course is 5. So basically it means that green, who landed on the puzzle, now has to go forward 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they will basically go to position 10. And you see that's what happens. So that's the end then of green's turn, and then the turn card says yellow go forward 1. And so that is yellow go forward 1. And then finally orange is the next one to go forward 8. So that will bring us right here somewhere. Yep. Violet go forward 6. And indigo go forward 3, which will end up right in the middle. And that's basically the end of turn 1. So the game now says end of turn 1. And we'll now switch to turn 2 because there is no special conditions. We'll see at some of the turns there are special conditions at the end of the turn that are handled between the end of turn 1 and the beginning of turn 2. Since it's maintaining who is ending on what positions, so violet ended on a red, and so it keeps maintaining that violet has now ended on red once. So the statistics have been updated. We also know that green has now had 1 puzzle, so it also keeps a track of that. Okay, so round 1, pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy is happening. As you can expect, that is going to go a little bit wilder in the next turn. So we're turning over turn card 2 and we're executing the turns. And turn card 2, the first move is red, go back 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, red. Red is here. Red is 5. Well, it can't go back 5. So it will end up at the start position. And that triggers rule number 11, which is tail end Sven. And so red is now forever known during the game as tail end Sven. I think the player has to wear a beard, and there's a couple of other things, but there's a couple of other rules that are specific for tail end Sven, so for the red player, that will now come into play. So, yeah, forever marked in this game now. But that does mark the end of the turn for red. There's nothing else they can do. And so we're going forward. That's blue. Now, blue is here on a shortcut. It's a bit hard to see, but the arrow goes from this purple to this green. And so that means that the way that works is that the shortcut counts as 1, and then 2, and then 3. This was actually one of those settings, whether the shortcut step is counting as 1. So if it does that, it will count the shortcut as 1, 2, 3, and that's the correct interpretation according to the rules. So let's execute that move, and we see indeed they ended up properly taking the shortcut and ending up there. Then green goes forward 2. So, and if you see what will happen, So green now goes forward 2, lands on the white, and so gets a puzzle. This was the second puzzle. This was the little dial that we had to do, the dial lock thing, which the outcome was move forward 4 minus 1, which of course is 3. So green is going to move forward 3 more, and we see that green ends up at yellow. So, and that's now the end of green's turn, because now we see that the next move is for yellow, go forward 6. So we'll see, end up here at this orange spot. Orange is the next one to play, go forward 2. They go forward right here, 2. And this was all based predetermined on those turn cards and the translations of the turn cards that I showed you earlier. Violet going back 2. So, and indigo go forward 3 plus 2. That was basically how their move translated. So combined, that is 5. So let's do that one as well. And so just showing you again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they ended up on this yellow. And that is the end of turn 2. Now let's see if there was any special moves, any special situations. And now we see it immediately going to the next turn. So there's no special situations to take care of. But the green one has now taken 2 puzzles, right? So we see the green has 2 puzzles now solved. And also it keeps track of that somebody has been on orange, because that's another special situation. So yellow has now been on orange, and it's an orange once. So we keep track of that, and we're moving on. Still pretty straightforward, and we haven't had any end game situations. So meaning that something after the round gets more complicated with end of round situations. So let's go to the third round. Next turn card, round number 3, will be played. And so this starts with the one that had that complicated math, or the more difficult math equation, which just ended up being 7. Now, note, it just reminds us that it's Dale and Sven as well, the red player. So that makes everything more difficult, or extra rules may apply. And we'll see when that happens. But right now it just means that red goes to 7, nothing else going on. Blue is the next one, go forward 6. So blue is to 6. So green goes to 1, so that would basically be here. Yellow goes forward 5. And we see that yellow is now ending up with the puzzle. Yellow has not done any puzzles yet. It's only 0, so nothing special. And this was the grill cipher that we had to cut out the pieces and go forward 1 plus 2 plus 3. So go forward 6. So they will go forward 6 more. And we see that situation, and now they end up right here. Orange is the next one to go. They go forward 3. So 1, 2, 3. See them ending up on the red. And violet goes forward, and again that was an equation there. 18 divided by 3 is 6. But also here it warns us that they are on a shortcut situation. Yep, that is true. So right here, so they're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they should end up right there. And indeed that's correct. And indigo, the last one, goes forward 7. So we see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right there nicely in the middle. So the end of turn 3 is now done. But now let's see if there's any special situations. And it says yes, rule number 14 applies. Rule number 14 is blown off course. That means that if several players are on their own color, at least 3, that they're going to swap positions. So we see that right here, the green, the blue, and the red are on their own color. So that was why it was important to know what was indigo, what was violet, so we knew what is their own color, right? So if this is violet and this is indigo, then that takes this rule. For this rule is that important. Not right now. We have these 3, And so what they're going to do is red is going to go to 16. So that's by the number, so it will make the jump. Green will go to 1 forward, and the blue one will go to where the red was. So basically they're shifting all 1 forward. Stats have been updated. That was the only end situation that was there. So we saw the first post move, and we are ready to start round 4. Okay, so turn card number 4 will be played. The order of the moves is always the same. It's always red goes always first, and so that doesn't change with any of the turn cards. They're all in the same order, and it says red go forward 7. So ends up right there. Blue go forward 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That ends up at a puzzle. So this was puzzle number 4. This was the puzzle where we had to detect the differences and ended up spelling go forward 8. So it will go forward another 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom, right there. Okay, so that's clean. Green is the next one. So green is going forward 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is a special situation where green will now rule 8. Can't have 2 players on the same one. And so it will move forward now, red 1 forward. So we see that right now. So it basically pushed red forward. So we see that right there. And then with the next one is yellow. Yellow will go forward 3. Orange has to turn go forward 5. Ends up right there. And violet will be the next one. Go over there. And then finally indigo, which is this one, go forward 4. Now here was that 5th puzzle is now being triggered. And this was the puzzle that was slightly tricky. So this was the puzzle where we had the mastermind, where we ended up with yellow and blue as the outcome, and then the combination is green, where the combination green was now turn over, do not move, basically skip a turn. Now why is this so important? Because this will trigger a unique end situation, as we see here, that all of them are in a row. So all of them in a row is Germunguder or something, which is a special move. If the puzzle had had any other outcome, that situation would not have happened. It would have moved away and we wouldn't have triggered the special situation. One of the things that we very heavily took into account when solving this is that we figured most of the rules would apply, especially the more outlandish one. So that was the same here. But there is another trick happening here. This just happened, right? The Germunguder, or the 7 in a row. There was a situation that happened here before, and that was that 3 were on their own color. So violet or violet, like I said, we had determined that this was going to be violet and not indigo. Orange on, green on green. So that is as well. So what they're going to do is they are going to swap first. So we have the end of the turn, special situation. Well, there is another special situation we have to take care of first, because that happened before the 7 in a row. And so 14 blown off course, in this case for 2. The rule is slightly different. They just swap positions. And you see that right here that they just swap positions. If I go back, this was the situation. And now they're back in that position. And now the other rule is applied. This is all explained in the rules, that if one situation occurs before the other, they have to be done in the order of appearance. The other one occurred first, so we had to execute that first. And now this one basically means a rotate. So all of them are going to move forward 1, and the last one will go to the last position. So it's a bit like a blown off course, but with everybody in play. Also, it says that the puzzle does not become active because of this. And there's a couple of other things. Till and Sven does not apply here, and there's a couple of other things. So Till and Sven can't nudge, so that's one of the rules. So we see going forward. So red goes to the ends. They all basically go one forward, as you see. And so they have all now swapped, or all go in one position, and red is now at the end. In this, we now successfully handled turn number 4. So we're going to turn number 5. So we see the first one is red again, tail and Sven, and again that just means that he can't nudge. Going forward 11, and so yellow, nothing special. Blue 7, again all safe. Green move forward 2, yellow go forward 10, and orange go forward 9. And that's where we get something special, right? So with the orange, let me go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They would nudge. So here is the orange that now moves forward. But there is another rule into play here, that you can't push anybody on a puzzle. So that is another rule that is being applied here. So normally he would nudge, but he can't, so we have to skip and have to go to the puzzle themselves. So otherwise yellow would be ending up there. So this is a special rule that we have to take in place, and we have to take the next puzzle, but now executed by orange instead of by the normal nudge rules where it would have been yellow. So that ends up there. So now we have the puzzle is puzzle number 6. That was the jigsaw, go forward 9. So orange goes forward another 9. Note that the shortcut is only taken at the beginning. Orange was at the end of the shortcut, so nothing happened. Now we get some other special move, which was violet go forward red turn. And red was the turned 11, right? So if we saw red turn was 11, what red did. So the interpretation here was pretty straightforward, is that we then basically made violet also go forward 11. So we'll do that right here. So violet being all the way over there now ends up all the way over here. So basically from 24 to 35. Same for indigo, same also red turn, just interpreting that as moving forward 11 and move to 11, and that's the end of rule 5. Rule 5 has no special end criteria. Nobody is on their own, no 7 in a row, nothing like that. So we're just done with turn 5. So we've got 2 more turns to go, turn 6 and turn 7. So let's see how the game plays out. So we see all the statistics. We're getting some that are getting closer to a 3. So so this blue has been on orange for 2 turns. That will trigger a special rule if they have done it for 3 turns. Same if somebody has done 3 puzzles or so many puzzles, special rules will come into play as well. But let's look at turn card 6. Tail and Sven is the first one. So go back 2. Well, that can safely be done. And we see that from here to here. Okay. Blue is on this card. Now remember position number 29, that was last one turn. So skip. So blue basically is just losing their turn. They're not moving. So their forward 5 is not being executed. They lost their turn because they're on this position. Green goes back 5. So let's do it as well. Yellow goes forward 9. So also, and then orange. Now orange is something special, so you see here already before we're executing that, orange is going to take the shortcut. And shortcut counts as 1, and then it has 7 things left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However, that doesn't work. No. So because you have to land exactly at finish. And the way that it says to do is that you then bounce back and so you never get here and you bounce back the turns that you have left. So in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, and let me just see, it was 8. So 5, 6, 7, 8, because you bounce back. So that is the situation of how it works. So they end up right here. So that's something to take into account immediately as they of how the bounce works. So you don't bounce here. You never take that turn. You basically take that turns backwards from the position where you are. So it feels like you should have ended up here, but because you never take the turn in that direction, you immediately just kind of like turn around from direction. And that's how you should interpret it. So that's why the last 4 moves end up over here. And now orange is right there. Okay. Violet goes forward 6, nothing special. And indigo, last one right here, they go also forward 6 and they end up on this shortcut at the end of turn 6. Now, end of turn 6, special situations, we have another red right here, right? A red on red is always tricky. This one has stayed on orange. And remember, we're counting the number of oranges because there is a special rule that talks about number of oranges. So that you ended the move on orange. Well, they ended the move on orange again. There's another rule as well that's taking place because, guess what? Green is on green and red is on red. So what are they going to do? They're going to switch positions. So because that is the that was the rule, they were the blown of course, rule number 14, with only 2 blown of course. Another thing that happened is that it now tells us blue is going to skip a turn, because blue has now landed on, according to rule 15, landed on orange 3 times. So it will skip a turn. So that will become effect next time. So we'll see that in the statistics as well. So if we go towards the end of it, we now see that 3 for orange, and that is what triggered that move. But we have handled turn number 6, and we're going to the last turn card. Some of them are near the end, so all kinds of things are possible. Let's see what's happening. Okay, last round. Let's see all the craziness that's going to happen. We have several near the end, so who knows? But let's go first. Red goes south, and here we get those go south, go north. Well, red is here, south would be in this direction. We have several other interpretations, south always going backward. Maybe south was going to the left and north was to the right. But the most sense would be that north was up to make it consistent with the compass here. And so going south in this case means going forward too. So you see that right here. Okay, and then it was the end of red. Next one is the blue's turn. However, blue, as was just indicated, is at skipping another turn. So they skipped one because they were here. Now they're skipping because they've ended based on rule 15. They've lost another turn because they ended on orange 3 times. Okay. So they ended on orange 3 times. Otherwise they would have gone north, but now they don't. Green, go back 5. Okay, that's easy. Yellow, go north. Well, yellow is here, north will go right here. However, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's already somebody there. So yellow goes to north. Normally, that would nudge indigo. But nudging indigo would go on the shortcut, would end up on white. That is not possible. So instead, they go themselves and yellow is nudged. So we see that right here, which means that yellow now is executing the last puzzle. This was the maze, which says go forward 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, a little bit about what is the direction they were going back. Does this mean that they have to continue? One of the rules says that you have to continue in the path that you're going, but this is really forward for them because they're going on the shortcut, which is a shortcut forward, right? It goes this way. Um, so 4 means, okay, go 4. And same situation. Normally they would move the other one, but they can't. So they have to leapfrog themselves and they end up on the puzzle. However, there are no more puzzles. And so the game says that you should do something else instead of solving puzzles. And so that is the scenario now. There's no more puzzles to hand out. And we trigger the rule about no more puzzles. And yellow will stay where they are. Okay. Orange, they're going to try again. Remember, they just bounced and did that whole weird situation. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. And guess what? They're going to bounce again. Remember, this for them is north. And so they'll end up exactly where they are. 4 forward, 4 backward. They end up exactly where they are. Violet, in this case, go forward 3. So we'll see that as well. It's right here at the end of a shortcut. And indigo, they go back 3. So 1, 2, 3. And that is the end of turn 7. End of turn 7, nothing else. So there's no special end of turn situations. And the game is at this point over? Question mark. At least it's over for now, because we have no more turns. Remember, there was many situations that come out. And so we are also going to look at what is the end situation. And kind of the bottom line already gives it away. This is where every position is, and it calculates based on that in 2 different ways. It calculates the coordinates. One of them is the correct coordinates. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is the situation that was our final state. Now, no winner. Kind of surprising, right? I think most people were looking for a winner. That might be a hint of what is going to happen on the day itself. Maybe we'll get more playing cards that we have to play. We'll see. And maybe that will end up with a winner. Who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, this is the final location. So zooming in a little bit and putting them in the order of the rainbow. So Roy G. Biff. We see these numbers around it, right? And so if we translate those 3, 4, 6, 8, 4, 1, 8, 5, 1, 6, 1, 0, etc. Right? So we have all these numbers. And we also had the compass. Now, if you think of where we are in the world, then north and west are the key parts. So north being the first digit each time. West gives us, is the 4th digit. That gives us actually a coordinate in Rome. That's a pretty good confirmation. Lots of other variants and stuff like that we were always judging by, do we end up with a good coordinate at the end? Because that's what we're looking for. This one is a good coordinate. It wasn't great, so it always left a doubt, even today as I'm recording this, because it kind of ends up behind a deserted building. There's a great little brewery right here. But yeah, it ends up behind this building, and yeah, it's both good and bad. It's on the river, so maybe something's going to happen with the river. We were saying like, well, it would be fun if a boat would come by with maybe additional instructions, but we don't know. But there's a big parking lot, so that's a good part. And at 10 o'clock, the brewery is not yet open, so the parking lot can be freely used. Of course, there won't be a cache location here. It will be most likely additional instructions. So that's what we expect here. Note, by only changing one move at the end, in a slightly different way, we can actually go slightly more north and end up right in front of the brewery. So I'm not quite sure if we made a mistake or that something else is going on. But since it's in the same parking lot, we didn't make a big deal about it and saying, okay, we end up at this brewery, we end up in this parking lot, and we'll see on the day itself what happens. So that is the summary of it all. Yeah, we have all we can be retrieved. We have the when, the Saturday at 10, with the where, the coordinate, we've got the log combination. And so we'll see. As I mentioned, this video was created before the event. If everything goes right, I'll publish it during the event as soon as the first to find is out of the way. That way it doesn't spoil it for anybody, but everybody that's at the event can then immediately follow it and see what they need to do and see maybe what they missed, or in the days after can replay it. Thanks to my team, Beldridge, the Cash Outlaws, and Lever54, who worked on this puzzle together and solved it. And of course, thanks to Go and Caching crew for organizing, of course, the mega event, creating this fun puzzle, but also for the permission to create this video. Yeah, so next up is the day of the event. The moment of recording, don't know what's happening, so I'll find out myself. But I will, of course, create a video of what happened there as well. So we'll keep you posted, and you should expect another video coming soon. With that, thank you very much. If you enjoyed this, please like the video. You can also subscribe. That way you will be notified when the follow-up video will be posted, right? And if you want to contact me, you can leave a comment, or you can contact me at waterfin5@geocaching.com website, or send me an email through Gmail. With that, thank you very much and appreciate you listening.